Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar. My name is Álvaro Monsalve and I will be introducing you to Python. To start up, I will tell you that I'm running this on a Mac computer, but it's going to be very similar for other operating systems, basically Windows. Let's start up. I'm going to be moving this presentation to one side. And the first thing that we're going to be looking into is about Python. Python is a programming language. If you Google it, you can go directly here into the Python website. Basically, Python is a scripting programming language. That means that you can write functions and you can write instructions and it will be executed immediately once you run the program. In terms of origins, we have the Python version 2 that is coming from the early 2000s. And then we have the Python 3 version, which is the one that is mostly used at the moment, especially for machine learning projects. So, look, basically, if you are running on a Mac computer, Python is installed already by default. If you are running on a Windows machine, what you have to do is when you get to the Python website, click on the download section. It will give you options for the different operating systems, Windows and Mac OS. In this case, you can see that it says Python 3.96, which is the latest version. And in my case, it's suggesting me to download the version for Mac OS. You can go and download the latest version. By default, Mac OS deploys their systems with already a Python version installed on it. We can verify this by opening the terminal window. Let's minimize this and just focus on the terminal window. And if you go and click on Python, you see in here, we have a Python version 2.7. That's what it comes by default with Mac OS. In my case, I've installed a newer version of Python. Let's exit this shell. And I've installed Python version 3. As you can see in here, I have installed, in my case, the version 3.94. Now, let's have a look a moment into this area. You can see that I call the command Python 3, and this open these three symbols in here. That means that right now we are in the Python shell, and in there you can actually run the Python instructions. So, for instance, let's do the most basic thing. That is, let's say, sum up 1 plus 2. As you can see, it gives you a result that is equal to 3. Very simple, right? Now, you can do more things like you can assign values to variables. Like, let's say a is equal to 1. And then if you want to display the value of a, you have to call the command print 8. And as you can see, it gives you the result equal to 1. You can do another assignment. Let's call it b equal to 5. And then you can sum up both values. Let's say c equals to a plus b. Now, if you want to see the result, let's go and print the value of c. And you can see in there that the value is now 6, which is what we were expecting. As you can see, you can run all the different elements of the Python programming in this shell. Now, let's give you one more example. Let's say that we want to print actual strings. So we go and say print. We go single or double quote for strings. In Python, there's no difference. So let's put a single quote in there. And let's say hello world. You can see that it prints out in the shell hello world. Now, you can basically run your programs and run it directly from the command. But obviously, in case the programs gets very complex, you need to write the different instructions in a file and execute the file. Now, let's do one thing. Let's go and close this. Let's close the terminal and let's see what other options we have for running a Python program, something that is not the shell and something that is not directly on the terminal. And so we go back into here on internet. So basically you have other options that are called the IDE, which are basically integrated development environments. Now, for the case of Python, one IDE that is very popular is called PyCharm. Right now my internet is slow, so okay, here we go. So we have Google PyCharm. Seeing here, you can write PyCharm, and it will give you a link to the company that makes PyCharm, which is called JetBrains. So let's click on it. I don't know what's going on with my internet today, but it's going a little bit slow. Here we go, finally. So as you can see in here, it gives you the option to download. There are two versions of PyCharm. One for professional developers, which is basically a paid version. In your case, as a student, you don't need to pay for that. You just need to get the community version. Let's see. And you see in here, this banner, it says about learning Python, try JetBrains Academy. That means that in there, they have additional resources for learning the different elements of the programming language. Let's have a look. I was planning to click on download, but actually, let's go and click in here, JetBrains Academy. Now let's scroll down. So this is an interesting resource if you want to learn very much all the elements of the programming language. You can have in here a developer tools, and there is a very extensive. The one that we are interested in is PyCharm. Right, let's click here on download. It took us basically back to the, okay, so this is the part that I want to get to. So you have two options. You have professional and community. Go and download the community version. Basically, when you click on it, it will start downloading the program. You can actually subscribe to their newsletters. So as you can see in here, it's starting to download the program. I will cancel it because in my case, I already have the program installed. So I will go in here, and you can see in here, PyCharm Community CE. That's the one that you are gonna see when you are finally install the program. So as you can see, is starting up. Right, let me bring it open it up in my second screen. Let me bring it in here. So in here, you can see that you will have an interface like this one, and basically you can create a new project. Let's go and do that. Let's go and create a new project. It will ask you for allocation of your new project. In my case, let's put it in document, and let's say first project. Actually, this is a location, it's a directory. So let's leave it as a first project. The interpreter is Python 3.8, as mentioned to you. And I'm gonna click this option that says create a main py. This is like a main file where you're gonna be writing your first programming lines. So when you click create, it basically create your workspace with all the elements that you require in order to run your program. So as you can see in here, this is a sample Python script, and press basically Control R to execute it, or replace it with your own code. So in this case, as you can see in here, it's gonna go and print Pine chart. Let's go and have a look on it. Another option to run it is basically go in here where it says main, right click on it, and click on run main file. As you can see in here, the actual program was executed and it's saying hi Pine chart. Now you can modify this. Instead of Pine chart, you can say this is my first Python program. Right. And then you can run it again. Go and click in here, run. And as you can see, it says, hi, this is my first Python program. Now you can repeat in here the things that we did in the shell, like A equal to 1, B equals to 6, and then we want to print A plus B. Now, what the answer is going to be? It's going to be 7. Okay, let's do one more thing. Let's do it in here. So the answer is, let's call it the result. The result is 2 points. So let's click and run it again. Ooh, it gives us an error. Okay, you can see in here that it was telling me this red part that there was a problem. The problem in this case is that I added some text, and this is an instruction that is summing 2 elements in there. Now you need to separate this with a comma. I forgot that part. So let's run it again. Now you can see in here that the result is 7. Which is actually what we are expecting from the sum of 6 plus 1. Now, basically, when you're going through the introduction of Python, you can go and write your programs in here in an IDE like Pine chart. Now, there are other options. There are other options that are very popular for machine learning developers. And these options are what they are called Jupyter notebooks. So let's minimize this and let's open the other option. let's go back to Google and let's write Jupyter Notebooks. Notebook. So Jupyter Notebook, let's click on it so we can get a definition of what a Jupyter Notebook is. So here we are. It says Jupyter Notebook is an open source web application that allows you to create and share documents that contain live code, equations, visualization, and narrative text. Uses include data cleaning, transformation, numerical simulation, and statistical. So you can see here on the left-hand side that a Jupyter Notebook is something that allows you to write rich text like these headings, this part with equations, text that actually you will find it in a typical book or a notebook when you're taking notes for a class. But apart from that, the other element that you have in here is that you have these lines in here. You said in square bracket 7, and in here what you have is actual code, and this code is for instance Python. It can be other programming language, but it's very popular with Python. So the idea is that this part that you hear in here, these graphs, they were actually generated by this command line, and the part that is above is just information that is well formatted, like in a proper word processor. That's what it is. Now you can think of, so what do we do? How do we install the notebook? Should we click on here on this button? Yes, you can click in that button and you can download your Jupyter Notebook, which is going to be running as a service in your computer. Now, and to access that service, you're going to go into a browser like this one, in my case Safari, and you're going to write down, let's say, the address of your computer, 127.1.0.0.1, and that will open your Jupyter Notebook. However, Jupyter Notebooks has become very popular, and because of that, they are already available for free on the internet. And this is the one that I want to show you. Basically, Google provide one that is called Colab. Is welcome to collaboratory Google Research. So basically, this is a Jupyter Notebook. So let's go and click actually on this link in here, Google Collaboratory Colab. So this tool, it allows you to create your notebooks. In my case, when I opened Google Colab, is showing me the recent notebooks that I have on my Google Drive. Now you can just simply click on this welcome notebook. That, as you can see in here, now we are already on a Jupyter Notebook, but obviously this one is provided by Google. And you can see in here, this particular notebook, it just gives you some initial information of how getting started, how everything is. Now, this one in particular, this one that you can see that has a play button to the left, those are actual elements, boxes where you can run the Python instructions. Like for instance, in this case, they call it code cells. In this case, they are running a command that it basically is multiplying 24 by 60 by 60, and it gives them this result. Now, in order to basically run these commands, you first need to connect to a computer. that I will actually do the processing in the background. So you can see in here, there is a button that is called Connect. This one will automatically connect to a Google computer that will do the processing for you. So you just need to click on there, and it starts saying allocating. It's looking for the resources to give you the processing unit, the hard drives, the RAM memory that is required. So this process is obviously going to take some time. It says initializing at this time. And it's telling you, it's telling you that it's doing on Python 3 on Google Cloud Engine backend. And now you can see in here on the details that it says the amount of RAM that is available, the disk space, and so basically RAM available, disk space, and so on. Now, if you want to actually run this command, you just need to click here on the play button, and you see start running, and it's processing, is sending back that information to Google and bringing it back. And when it brings it back, it gives you the result 86,400. For me, that was obviously not very clear if this multiplication is this value. So let's do something that is easier for us to understand. Let's do 1 plus 3. Right. So click on it. It gives you 4. So as you can see, it's very interactive. And anytime you want to run this thing, you just simply have to run the commands. Now, you might ask me, why don't you have print second in day to show 4? You can do that, but in the case of this notebook, by just writing the name of the variable, it will produce you the result. But let me prove you my point. Let's do print, and let's print that variable. I click on play, and you can see it shows a 4. Now, because this is a notebook and it's a Python programming language, this value of second in a day is already stored on the RAM system of the memory is stored on the RAM and the RAM memory of the system. So this value, you can actually use it on the next cell. Let's say this one. Or in my case, I'm not going to modify the welcome notebook of Google. So let's just simply add one more cell of code. You see in this button, I can click here on plus code, and it creates me a new cell with a new play button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this value, second in day, I'm going to copy and paste it, and I'm going to sum, let's say 10 to it. And let's save this on a variable that we're going to call it variable 2. Let's display the value of variable 2. So let's click on it. The result is going to be, 14, obviously. So this is basically a Google Colab, and I will suggest you to use this this tool for trying up your for developing your Python programs. Obviously, you can create a new notebook that doesn't have all of this information. Let's say new notebook. It's a little bit slow. My internet is, and that's unexpected. Okay, now here we are. As you can see in here, that's the name of your file. In my case, it's saving it on my Google Drive. As you can see, this is my photo here. You need to log into Google to do this. Basically, now you have a clean notebook where you can do exactly the same that I was doing before. You will have to connect again. Actually, by just clicking on play here, it already started going through the process of allocating the resources and connecting to it. connecting to the Google Computer Engine backend. So yeah, as you can see, it produced me the result, which is a 3. So yeah, so this is how you can start basically trying out your programs, your Python programs. Now, something else that perhaps I should show you is in your introduction to Python module, get it started, you can download these presentations where they give you details about the different data types for Python. For instance, you can go into the scalar types and it will give you a description of integers, flow, and Python has something that is called non-type, which is basically a null object, something that doesn't have any real content inside there. You can define all these values in a program, like booleans. So it gives you an examples of how to define them. For instance, what we have been doing with the number is we have been defining an integer. That integer can be represented on a binary format. It can be represented in a hexadecimal format. And this is something call to instructions in that ensures that the data type that you're creating is an integer. So let's have a look. Next, float. It describes you what type of the standard that describes the float that is used, how many decimals, and how to define it. By just simply doing 3 point something, you are already defining a float. The value none, which represents the instance of no value. So on Python, you can define something like this: a equal to none. And then when you do a is equal to none, it will reply you with a value true. And booleans, basically bool 42, bool -1, bool 0, and so on and so forth. So there are also some relational operators. So let's have a look. First, let's try some things like this. We already tried integers, so let's try the float. So create one more cell of code so we can define a float. So let's say 2.2, and then we print it. As you can see, it has been taking a little bit of time to run each line. It actually, you can actually run all of the lines, and it will be faster. You can go to runtime and click on run all. So when you have a program, it will go faster by calling in such a way. And when you're running machine learning programs, it will be easier if you go and run all of the different lines. When you're doing debugging, you will have to do line by line, but yeah, that's will be my my first comment. So don't get discouraged, if it's taking like 4 seconds to sum 1 plus 2. It's just simply because it's communicating in the backend with Google. Let's go back again and see other things like defining a value known. Let's repeat these lines in here. Like a equal to none, and other line was something that it was checking whether it's known. A is known. Let's try that line. The answer is true in this case. So yeah, so let's have a look into this on the data types. There are also booleans, the identities, the relational operationals that whether things are equal or not, greater than, less than, inequalities, and so on. And then it goes to the part of control flow of if expressions. Like, let's give it a quick example for you guys to have a look into it. Like, let's say if a float is equal to 2.2, then, oh, let's have a look at the syntax. Yes. If equal to 0.2, then print, suppose print yes. So let's run it again. So yes. Now, if it's not 2.2, let's say 2.1, not gonna print yes, as you can see in there. So yeah. Now let's see what else is in there. So we have the if clauses. We have the while loops. What else do we have there? So yeah, that's for this part of the presentation of the data types. Now, something that you need to learn about Python is that Python has lists and dictionaries. And lists, as I said, is a sequence of objects. And I like the sentence, a word horse in Python, and that is true. And as you can see in here, A is defining a list in here of string elements, in this case, fruits, apple, orange, and pear. But you can have also a list of integers items, like 198 in this case. And the list has some methods associated to them, so you can add elements to a list. You can remove elements from a list. You can index elements from the list, like for instance, in this case, we are looking for the first element of list 8. In this case, is given value 7. I'm not sure where that 7 was defined. No, sorry. At this point, is assigning 7 to the A first element of A. So let's go and have a look into an example. So let's say my list, and let's make it with numbers. 1, 2, and 3. 3, right? Now, let's print my list. Here we go. Now, let's do what they were doing. They were actually, okay, let's find out first what is the first element of my list. In this case is this element, the first element. The actual one is located on the element 0. Yeah. Now, let's leave it in 1, and as the example that we have there, let's modify it. And let's say that now we want the value of my list in position element 1 to be equal to 10, let's say. Let's run it. Now, it did it in the backend, so we have to again see the content of my list. And as you see, it got assigned the value 10 in there. So this will be very useful, and as you can see, you can add to the list things that are not only numbers but also strings and other data types. Can be booleans and so on, can be null elements. So the other thing that I want you to look into is dictionaries. And dictionaries is something that you have a key and have a value. So let's give an example. It's like uh, this variable d, it has a key, which in this case is Alice, and the value is her phone number. That must be somewhere in the US. It's not an Australian number, obviously. Now we have another key, which is Bob, and his phone number, Eve, and his phone number. Now, if you want to find out the value that is stored in keys Alice, you just need to, write the name of the variable in square bracket and indicate the value of the key. In this case, Alice, and it will produce you the result. So this is a beauty about about dictionaries, that you can have a key and a value assigned to it. And you can think of this like, imagine that you want to have a dictionary, like I call it my dictionary, and in there you want to have, let's say, key 1, and the value of key 1 is gonna be Alvaro. That's me. Now, let's define another key. Key 2, and in that case, other. Let's call it other. Now, let's see, the syntax is right. Syntax is right. Oh, these brackets. So let's run this command. Right, now let's go and extract the value of my dictionary and what is on key 1. On key 1, you will find that it's Alvaro. On key number 2, you will find that is other. So yeah, that's one of the beauties about dictionaries, and that is also very used on the Python language. Let's have a look. What else is in here. Obviously, then you go into the conditionals, the 4 items on how to do iterations. Here doesn't give. Oh well, yeah. Okay, see, having here a list of cities, and for each city, you define this new variable that is called city, and in the list cities, print city. So what is going to happen in here is that it's going to take the cities list, and for each city is going to go and print their value. So let's make an example of also the for loop with what we already have in here. So let's do it with my list. Let's do it in here. So let's say for list value in my list. Now, something that is very important, I always forget this, 2 points. Something that is very important in Python is the indexing. After the first line, the other lines needs to be indexed, and you can index them by clicking on tab. So click on tab, and you can see that there is a space in here. So then you can do print the list values. Right. Now let's see what comes up out of it. Let's click on it. 1, 10, and 3. Now have a look into this one about the notebook. because we have already assigned list equal to 10, it remembers that the content of my list was actually 10. So it's not printing 1, 2, 3, it's printing 1, 10, 3. So that's another good example, another good lesson that you can learn from this. What else? Let's see what else we can have a look into it. Yeah, you will have to learn more details about the all the elements of the programming language. Also, you can define functions. Let's see an example on how to define functions. In here, okay, in here there is not an example. Okay, there is one. This one is a definition of a function. Let's make our own function. So let's call it define. This will tell that it is a function. So let's call it my function, and let's input a variable in there equal to a. 2 points again. Now, what is going to be inside, when I did enter, it already created the index in the tab. So what you're putting here is a line. Let's say b is equal to a plus 20. Let's put it this way. Then we want to print, let's say, the value of b the value of b the value of b is the value of b is here in here b. Give me a second. So value of b, okay, so this is the definition of a function. If we click on play, nothing happens. But when you call the function, what you have to do is to my function and assign a value to it. Let's say 10. Let's call this function. Value of b is 30. So yeah, that's basically that's basically a function. So look, this is the basic. I recommend you guys to go through it. And basically, when you say your notebook, you can give it a name, like this one in here, like my first Python. Okay, so okay, see you next time in the next webinar, guys. Thank you.